Blood dripped from my sister's perfect lips as she smiled at me, her rejection ceremony crown glinting in the moonlight. "Don't worry, Ember," she whispered, "some of us are just born to be forgotten." I stared at Luna in shock, my heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't how tonight was supposed to go. The mate recognition ceremony was meant to be her crowning moment, literally. She was supposed to accept Alpha King Darius Blackthorn as her destined mate, unite our pack with the royal bloodline, and cement her place as the future queen. Instead, she'd publicly rejected him. The ceremonial clearing had erupted in chaos after her announcement. Pack members whispered frantically among themselves, elders shook their heads in dismay, and our parents looked like they might collapse from shame. But Luna? She stood there with that strange smile, crown askew on her golden hair, looking more triumphant than devastated. "Luna, what have you done?" I whispered, grabbing her arm. She pulled away, and that's when I caught it, a scent that didn't belong. Sweet and cloying, like overripe fruit left too long in the sun. It clung to her skin beneath her usual lavender perfume, foreign and wrong. No wolf in our pack smelled like that. "I've freed myself," she said, her blue eyes gleaming with something I'd never seen before. Something that made my wolf pace nervously inside me. "But he's your mate. The moon goddess chose. The moon goddess chose wrong." Luna's voice carried a hardness that sent chills down my spine. "Some bonds are meant to be broken, dear sister." She turned away, leaving me standing there with my mouth agape. Around us, the pack was slowly dispersing, heads hung low in shame. Our family's reputation lay in tatters at our feet. I'd always been the shadow twin. Where Luna was golden sunshine, I was dark moonlight. Where she commanded attention, I preferred the corners. Where she excelled at everything, I was merely adequate. Tonight was supposed to be her night, but somehow it had become a nightmare for us all. I needed air. Space. Somewhere to process what had just happened. Slipping away from the crowd, I headed toward the forest that bordered our territory. The ancient pines whispered in the wind, their familiar scent helping to calm my racing heart. I'd always found peace among the trees, away from the pack's constant comparisons between Luna and me. But tonight, even the forest couldn't quiet the questions spinning through my mind. That strange scent on Luna's skin haunted me. I'd smelled something similar recently, but where? And why had she looked so pleased about destroying what should have been the happiest moment of her life? I was so lost in thought that I didn't see the massive figure until I collided with it head-on. Strong hands caught my shoulders, steadying me as I stumbled backward. The scent hit me immediately, pine and snow and something wild that made my wolf snap to attention. My eyes traveled up from a broad chest to sharp features half hidden in shadow, finally meeting a pair of eyes that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Alpha King Darius Blackthorn. He was even more imposing up close than he'd been during the ceremony. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and the kind of commanding presence that made other wolves instinctively want to bow their heads. But it was his eyes that trapped me, silver like moonlight on water, currently staring at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "You," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through my bones. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," I stammered, trying to step back. His hands tightened on my shoulders, keeping me in place. "I didn't see you there. I was just..." "What's your name?" he interrupted, his eyes never leaving mine. "Ember. Ember Nightshade." The words came out barely above a whisper. Something shifted in his expression. His pupils dilated until they were pure black pools, and a sound emerged from his throat that was more animal than human, a deep, guttural growl that made my wolf respond with a whine of confusion. "Impossible," he breathed. The word hung in the air between us like a challenge to fate itself. His hands were still on my shoulders, burning hot even through my ceremonial dress, and I couldn't seem to look away from those silver eyes that had gone dark as storm clouds. "What's impossible?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned closer, and I caught his scent again, that wild, intoxicating smell that made my heart race for reasons I couldn't name. His eyes searched my face like he was memorizing every detail. You smell like moonflowers, he said finally, his voice rougher than before. I blinked in surprise. I do? And rain. Fresh rain on summer earth. His thumb brushed across my cheek, so gently I wondered if I'd imagined it. How is that possible when your sister smells like? He cut himself off, but the implication hung between us. Luna hadn't smelled right tonight. That foreign sweetness, the satisfaction in her rejection, the way she'd looked at me like she knew a secret I couldn't guess. Like what? I pressed. His hands dropped from my shoulders, and he stepped back as if he'd been burned. The loss of contact made my wolf whimper, which was strange because I'd never been particularly drawn to dominance displays or alpha posturing. Your Majesty. I tried again. This can't be happening, he muttered, running a hand through his dark hair. Not now. Not after. After what? He looked at me again, and I saw something vulnerable flicker across his features before his alpha mask slammed back into place. Go home, Ember Nightshade, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Forget this conversation ever happened. He turned to leave, but I found myself reaching out, my fingers catching his wrist. The contact sent electricity shooting up my arm, and from his sharp intake of breath, he felt it too. Wait, I said. I don't understand what's happening here, but something isn't right. About tonight, about Luna, about what? His voice was dangerous now, all alpha authority. I should have backed down. Any sensible Omega would have ducked their head and apologized for overstepping. But something inside me, some instinct I'd never felt before, pushed me to continue. She smelled wrong tonight. Foreign. And she was happy about rejecting you, really happy. That's not normal, is it? For someone to be pleased about breaking a mate bond? His eyes sharpened. What exactly did you smell? Something sweet. Cloying. Like fruit that's gone bad. I tried to place the scent more specifically. I've smelled it before, but I can't remember where. Rogue magic, he said grimly. That's what you're thinking of. It's the scent that clings to wolves who've been touched by dark practices. The words hit me like a physical blow. Luna wouldn't. Wouldn't she? His voice was gentle but implacable. Think, Ember. Really think about your sister's behavior lately. Has she been different? Secretive? Meeting with people she shouldn't? My mind raced back over the past few weeks. Luna had been disappearing at odd hours, claiming she needed space to prepare for the ceremony. She'd been short-tempered with our parents, dismissive of pack traditions she'd once embraced. And there had been phone calls she'd taken in private, conversations that ended abruptly whenever I entered the room. Oh, goddess, I whispered. She has been acting strange. Rogues have ways of influencing pack members, Darius said. Especially those who feel entitled to power they haven't earned. But why would she reject her destined mate for that? What could they possibly offer her that's better than being queen? His laugh was bitter. Perhaps they promised her she could choose her own mate. Perhaps they convinced her that true mates are a form of slavery. Or perhaps, he stopped himself. Perhaps what? Perhaps they knew exactly who her mate really was, and they wanted to prevent the bond from forming. The way he said it, the careful emphasis on her mate, made my stomach flutter with an impossible hope I didn't dare name. I have to go, he said abruptly. But Ember, be careful around your sister. If she's involved with rogues, she's dangerous. More dangerous than you know. He started to walk away again, but this time I didn't try to stop him. Instead, I called after him. Your Majesty. What did you mean when you said impossible? He paused, his broad shoulders tense in the moonlight. For a moment, I thought he might actually answer. Then he straightened and disappeared into the shadows between the trees, leaving me alone with the scent of pine and snow and the echo of that one word. Impossible. I stood there for a long time, my mind spinning with everything that had happened. Luna's rejection, the strange scent clinging to her skin, the way Alpha King Darius had looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Most disturbing of all was the way my wolf had reacted to him, not with the respectful submission expected of an Omega, but with something that felt dangerously close to recognition. As I finally turned to head home, one thought kept circling through my mind. If Luna really was involved with rogues, if she'd orchestrated her own rejection for some dark purpose, then what did that mean for our pack? For me? And why did I have the growing certainty that this was only the beginning? Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Silver Eyes turn black with an emotion I couldn't name, heard that rough voice saying, "Impossible," like it was both a curse and a prayer. By dawn, I'd convinced myself I'd imagined the entire encounter. Alpha Kings didn't stumble through forests after being publicly rejected. They certainly didn't touch random pack members like they were precious things that might break. But when I pressed my fingers to my cheek where his thumb had brushed, I could still feel the phantom heat of his touch. Ember. Luna's voice cut through my brooding like a blade. She stood in my doorway, looking perfect despite the previous night's chaos. Her golden hair fell in waves over her shoulders, her blue eyes bright and clear. No trace of the satisfied smirk or foreign scent remained. "We need to talk," she said, stepping into my room without invitation. "Do we?" I pulled my knees to my chest, studying my sister's face. In daylight, she looked like the Luna I'd grown up with, beautiful, confident, slightly impatient with my tendency toward introspection. But something felt different. Off. "Mother and father are beside themselves," she continued, settling on the edge of my bed. "The pack elders have called an emergency meeting. Everyone's talking about what happened." "You mean what you did," I said quietly. "You rejected your mate in front of everyone. Our entire pack is humiliated." Luna's expression didn't change, but I caught the flash of something cold in her eyes. "Sometimes we have to make hard choices for the greater good." "Whose greater good?" She tilted her head, studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "You've always been too curious for your own good, little sister." The way she said it, like an accusation rather than an observation, sent ice through my veins. "I'm only younger by 3 minutes. 3 minutes can make all the difference." She reached out to touch my hand, and I had to fight not to recoil. Her skin was cold, almost corpse-like. "Promise me you'll stay away from the royal pack, Ember. Promise me you won't do anything foolish." Before I could ask what she meant, she was gone, leaving behind only the faintest trace of that cloying sweetness. I spent the morning helping Mother prepare for the pack meeting, but my mind kept drifting to Luna's warning. Why would I have reason to go near the royal pack? Why did she look at me like she was seeing someone else entirely? The answers came sooner than I expected. I was in the garden, tending to the moonflower patch that had always been my private sanctuary, when the sound of hooves thundered up our drive. Through the trellis, I saw royal guards dismounting from massive warhorses, their silver and black uniforms pristine despite the long ride. My heart stopped when I recognized the figure leading them. Alpha King Darius Blackthorn looked every inch the ruler in daylight, commanding, untouchable, dangerous. But when his eyes found mine through the flowers, I saw the same wild hunger from the night before. "Ember Nightshade," he said, his voice carrying easily across the garden. "Come here." It wasn't a request. My legs felt like water as I stood, brushing dirt from my hands. The moonflowers seemed to lean toward me as I passed, their white petals unfurling despite the morning sun. Strange. They usually only bloomed at night. "Your Majesty," I managed, dropping into a curtsy that felt awkward and unpracticed. "We need to talk." His silver eyes never left my face, and I noticed his hands were clenched into fists at his sides, like he was fighting some internal battle. "Perhaps this isn't the best time," Mother interrupted, appearing at my shoulder. "The pack is in mourning after your daughter's rejection of our bond," Darius finished, but his gaze remained fixed on me. Which is exactly why we need to discuss Miss Ember's safety. Safety? My wolf stirred uneasily. I don't understand. Rogues have been spotted near your territory, he said, though something in his tone suggested that wasn't the whole truth. Given your family's recent prominence, I'm concerned for your well-being. Mother straightened. Surely our own pack can protect. No. The word came out as a growl that made every wolf present drop their eyes in submission. Except me. I found myself staring right back at him, which only seemed to make his pupils dilate further. Miss Ember will come with us. Now. You can't just take her, Mother protested, though her voice shook with the effort of defying an alpha king. I can and I will. His attention finally shifted from me to Mother, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Unless you prefer to explain to the pack why you refused the king's protection for your daughter? It was a masterful political move. Refusing would make Mother look ungrateful and suspicious. Accepting would separate me from my family, but appear cooperative. How long? I asked quietly. His eyes snapped back to mine. As long as necessary. Which could mean anything. An hour later, I found myself in a carriage racing through the countryside toward Blackthorn Castle, a small bag of belongings beside me and a very unsettled wolf pacing in my chest. Darius rode alongside us on a massive black stallion, but even from a distance, I could feel his attention like a physical weight. The castle was everything I'd imagined and more, ancient stone towers reaching toward the sky, flags snapping in the wind, walls that had withstood centuries of war. But as we passed through the massive gates, I couldn't shake the feeling I was entering a beautiful prison. Your rooms are in the east wing, Darius said as we dismounted in the courtyard. He'd barely looked at me during the entire journey, but now his gaze was hungry again, almost predatory. You'll have everything you need. Except freedom, I said before I could stop myself. His jaw tightened. Freedom is a luxury I can't afford to give you right now. Why? Instead of answering, he turned and strode toward the castle, leaving me to follow with a contingent of guards. The message was clear, I was a guest, but I was also a prisoner. My rooms were beautiful, a suite of chambers with tall windows overlooking the gardens, tapestries on the walls, a fire crackling in the hearth. But when I tested the door after the guards left, I found it locked from the outside. For my protection, I muttered, sinking into a chair by the window. Outside, I could see Darius in the courtyard below, speaking intently with his captain of guards. Even from this distance, his movements seemed agitated, almost frantic. He kept running his hands through his dark hair, pacing like a caged animal. What had he meant when he said I smelled like moonflowers and rain? Why had his wolf reacted so violently to my presence? And why did I feel this strange pull toward him, like a compass pointing north? I was still pondering these questions when a soft knock came at my door. A young woman entered with a tea service, pretty, with auburn hair and kind eyes. I'm Meredith, she said with a curtsy. I'll be your lady's maid during your stay. Is that what we're calling this? A stay? Meredith's smile faltered slightly. His Majesty wants you to be comfortable. His Majesty wants me to be contained, I corrected. There's a difference. She busied herself arranging the tea service, but I caught her worried glances. He's been different since last night, she admitted quietly. Restless. Angry. The staff is walking on eggshells. Different how? He's not sleeping. Barely eating. And his eyes. She shivered. They've been black more than silver since he returned from your territory. His wolf is too close to the surface. A chill ran down my spine. In the werewolf world, an alpha who couldn't control his wolf was dangerous to everyone around him. Has this happened before? Never. Meredith met my eyes. Which is why everyone's so unsettled. Alpha King Darius has always been in perfect control. Until now. Until me, she didn't say, but the implication hung in the air. That evening, I was served dinner in my rooms, an elaborate meal I barely touched while staring out at the darkening sky. The moonflowers in the garden below were beginning to open, their white petals glowing in the twilight. Strange how they seemed more vibrant here than at home, as if they were responding to something in the air. I was contemplating this when my door opened without a knock. Darius stood in the doorway, still dressed in his formal clothes but disheveled now, his hair mussed and his eyes that unsettling black. He looked like he'd been fighting an internal war and losing. "Your Majesty," I said, standing quickly. "I wasn't expecting." "Don't." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "Don't call me that. Not when we're alone." "Then what should I call you?" "Darius." He moved closer, and I caught his scent again, pine and snow and something wild that made my wolf whine with need. "Tell me about your sister." The abrupt change of subject threw me. "What about her? How long has she been different?" I thought about Luna's cold touch, her satisfied smirk, the foreign scent clinging to her skin. "A few weeks, maybe longer." "Why?" "Because she's not your twin." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Sit down, Ember." His voice was gentler now, but his eyes remained that disturbing black. "What I'm about to tell you is going to change everything you thought you knew about yourself." I sank back into my chair, my legs suddenly unreliable. "I don't understand." "Luna isn't your sister. Not in the way you think." He began pacing, his movements sharp and agitated. "You're part of something called soul-splitting, a rare supernatural phenomenon where one powerful wolf soul is divided between two bodies at birth." My world tilted sideways. "That's impossible." "Is it?" He stopped pacing, fixing me with that intense stare. "Think about it, Ember. Really think. Have you ever wondered why you're so different from her? Why she seems to excel at everything while you fade into the background?" I'm not as strong." "You're stronger," he said fiercely. "Your power has been suppressed, contained, hidden away while she got the surface beauty and social grace. But the real strength, the raw power, that's all you." I shook my head, refusing to believe it. "You're wrong. Luna is the special one. She always has been." "Luna got the mask," Darius continued, moving closer until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You got the truth. And now that truth is starting to break through." As if summoned by his words, power surged through me, hot and wild and completely unfamiliar. The fire in the hearth flared, the windows rattled in their frames, and every flower in the garden below suddenly bloomed at once, their white petals glowing like stars. "What's happening to me?" I gasped, gripping the arms of my chair. "You're awakening," Darius said, and there was something like reverence in his voice. "The suppression spells are breaking down." "Suppression spells?" "Luna's been draining your power your entire life, taking what should have been yours." His hands clenched into fists again. "That's why she could reject me so easily. She knew the bond was never really hers." "Then whose?" I began, but stopped as understanding crashed over me like a tidal wave. "Yours," he confirmed, his voice rough with emotion. "You're my true mate, Ember. You always have been." The power surging through me responded to his words, reaching toward him like a living thing. I saw his pupils dilate further, heard the low growl building in his chest. "This is why you brought me here," I whispered. "Not for protection." "Partly for protection," he said, though his gaze was fixed on my mouth now. "But mostly because being away from you is killing me. My wolf won't be denied much longer." He was right. I could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his hands shook slightly at his sides. He was barely holding on to his human form. "What happens when he stops fighting?" I asked. "He claims what's his." The words came out as more growl than speech. "He marks you. Makes sure no other wolf can ever touch what belongs to him." Fear and anticipation warred in my chest. "And what I want doesn't matter?" "What do you want, Ember?" He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "Tell me you don't feel this pull." Tell me your wolf isn't calling to mine. I couldn't. Because he was right, I did feel it. The magnetic draw, the way my body seemed to come alive in his presence, the rightness of his scent surrounding me. But I also felt trapped, confused, overwhelmed by revelations that turned my entire life upside down. I need time, I said finally, to process all of this. Time is a luxury neither of us has. His hand came up to cup my cheek, and I leaned into the touch before I could stop myself. The longer we fight this bond, the more dangerous it becomes. For both of us. Dangerous how? And bonded mates can lose control completely. Become feral. Hurt innocent people. His thumb stroked across my cheekbone, sending heat spiraling through me. I won't let that happen to you. Even if it means forcing me. Pain flashed across his features. I don't want to force anything. But I also won't let you die because of misplaced nobility. Before I could ask what he meant, a commotion erupted outside. Shouts, the clatter of weapons, the sound of horses approaching at a gallop. Darius was at the window in an instant, his entire body going rigid. No, he breathed. What is it? I joined him at the glass, and my heart stopped. Torches blazed in the darkness beyond the castle walls, carried by figures on horseback. Dozens of them, maybe more. At their head rode a familiar figure in a white cloak, her golden hair streaming behind her like a banner. Luna. But this wasn't the Luna I'd grown up with. This version radiated power and malevolence, her beauty turned cold and terrible. Around her rode rogues, wolves who had been cast out from their packs for crimes too dark to forgive. She's come for you, Darius said, his voice deadly quiet. For me? Why? Because she needs your power to complete whatever ritual she's planning. He turned from the window, his eyes now completely black, his wolf fully ascendant. And she's brought an army to take it. As if she'd heard him, Luna's voice rang out across the night, magically amplified to carry to every corner of the castle. Sister, she called, and the word dripped with false affection. I've come to collect what's mine. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I pressed my face to the glass, watching as the rogue army spread out to surround the castle. There were so many of them, and more arriving by the minute. How many people will die if I don't go to her? I asked quietly. Everyone, Darius said simply. She's made a deal with something ancient and hungry. Something that feeds on destruction. Then I have to. No. His hand closed around my wrist, gentle but implacable. You're not going anywhere. But you said. I said she needs your power. I didn't say we were going to give it to her. His smile was sharp and predatory. Your sister has made one critical mistake. Which is? She's forgotten that power shared is power doubled. He pulled me closer, until our bodies were almost touching. She thinks she can take what's yours by force. But true power, mate bond power, can only be freely given. I don't understand. Complete the bond with me, Ember. Accept me as your mate, and I'll accept you as mine. Together, we'll have the strength to stop whatever she's planning. Luna's voice rose again, closer now. I know you can hear me, dear sister. Come down and say hello. We have so much to discuss. I looked from the window to Darius, seeing the desperation hidden beneath his commanding exterior. He was asking me to bind my life to his, to accept a future I'd never imagined, all to stop a sister who apparently wasn't my sister at all. If I do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. No, he agreed. There isn't. And you're certain we can stop her? I'm certain we have to try. Outside, Luna laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Don't keep me waiting too long, Ember. My patience isn't infinite, and my friends are getting hungry. As if summoned by her words, howls rose from the rogue army, not the clean sound of pack wolves, but something twisted and wrong. The sound of creatures that had given up their humanity for power. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Accept the mate bond and fight alongside a man I barely knew, or refuse and watch innocent people die for my cowardice. When I opened my eyes again, Darius was watching me with an expression of such intense hope and fear that it took my breath away. "All right," I said quietly. "I accept." The words had barely left my lips when power exploded through me, not the wild, unfocused energy from before, but something clean and strong and utterly right. Darius's eyes flashed silver, then gold, then settled into a warm amber that seemed to glow from within. "Mine," he growled, pulling me against him. "Yours," I whispered back, and meant it. The mate bond snapped into place between us like a bridge of light, connecting our souls in a way that felt both foreign and utterly natural. Through it, I could feel his strength, his fierce protectiveness, his absolute determination to keep me safe. But I could also feel something else, Luna's rage as she sensed what we'd done, her fury at being denied the prize she'd come to claim. "She knows," I gasped. "Let her know," Darius said, his arms tightening around me. "Let her feel exactly what she's chosen to go up against." Outside, Luna's voice rose to a shriek of pure rage. "You stupid, selfish girl. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I've chosen my own path," I called back, surprised by the strength in my voice. "Something you never allowed me to do before. Then you've chosen to die alongside him." Luna's voice turned cold and calculating. "So be it." The siege of Blackthorn Castle was about to begin. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The bond between Darius and me pulsed with shared power, but it did nothing to quiet the chaos erupting outside. Through the windows, I watched Luna's army spread across the castle grounds like a plague of shadows. The rogues moved with unnatural coordination, their eyes glowing red in the torchlight. "Something's controlling them," I whispered, pressing closer to Darius. "Not something," he said grimly. "Someone." A figure emerged from behind Luna's white horse, and my blood turned to ice. The woman was tall and elegant, with silver hair that seemed to move independently of the wind and skin so pale it was almost translucent. But it was her eyes that made my wolf whimper and retreat. They were completely black, like looking into the void between stars. "Morgana," Darius breathed, and through our new bond one felt his emotions crash over me like a tidal wave. Rage, betrayal, and underneath it all, a bone-deep terror that had nothing to do with physical danger. "You know her?" I asked, though his reaction had already given me the answer. "She was my first mate." The words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered back, breaking contact with him, and immediately felt the loss like a wound. "You're first, but that's impossible. Wolves only have one true mate. Usually." His jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists. "But Morgana isn't entirely wolf." Through the window, the pale woman raised her hands, and power rippled through the air like heat waves. The rogues around her began to change, their forms shifting into something that was neither fully human nor fully wolf, but a twisted amalgamation of both. "What is she?" I whispered. "A witch-wolf hybrid. The last of her kind." Darius moved away from the window, beginning to pace like a caged animal. "Her mother was a powerful sorceress, her father an alpha from the Northern Territories. The combination should have been impossible, magic and lycanthropy don't mix. But somehow she survived, and the result was monstrous? Magnificent." The word came out like a confession. She was everything I thought I wanted. Beautiful, powerful, seductive. When I was young and foolish, I believed the moon goddess had blessed me with the perfect mate. Jealousy clawed at my chest, sharp and unexpected. Through our bond, Darius felt it and turned to face me, his amber eyes softening. "But she wasn't," he continued. "The seers warned me that our union would fulfill an ancient prophecy, one that would tear open the barriers between worlds and allow the Shadow Realm to consume everything we held dear. So you rejected her." I tried to. His laugh was bitter. "But rejecting a witch is different from rejecting a wolf." "She cursed me, Ember." Cursed me to never find true love again, to watch anyone I cared about suffer for my choice. I thought about his reputation for cold solitude, his refusal to take another mate despite political pressure. How long have you been alone? 50 years. The admission hung heavy in the air between us. 50 years of watching the curse work its poison on anyone who dared get close to me. Then how? I gestured between us, feeling the warm pulse of our completed bond. I don't know. He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. You should be dead already, just from accepting the mate bond. The fact that you're standing here, that we're connected like this, it shouldn't be possible. Outside, Morgana's voice rose in some ancient language, the words scraping against my mind like claws. The rogues responded with howls that made the castle stones vibrate. She's starting the ritual, Darius said, his face grim. We need to get you out of here. Running won't solve anything. I caught his hand, lacing our fingers together. And you still haven't told me what prophecy I'm supposedly part of. He closed his eyes, and through our bond one felt his reluctance to speak the words aloud. There's a legend among our people, the prophecy of the sundered soul. It speaks of a time when one soul would be split between two vessels, creating a being of immense power who could either salvation or damnation to our kind. My heart hammered against my ribs. The soul splitting. You and Luna. He nodded. But the prophecy says that when the sundered soul is reunited with its true mate under the blood moon, their combined power will reshape the world itself. Reshape it how? That's the question, isn't it? His thumb brushed across my knuckles. The prophecy is deliberately vague. It could mean salvation, the end of the Shadow Realm's threat forever. Or it could mean the end of everything we know. I stared at him, the weight of destiny settling on my shoulders like a leaden cloak. And you're willing to risk everything on a maybe? I'm willing to risk everything for you. The words were simple, but they resonated through our bond with absolute truth. Whatever comes, we face it together. Before I could respond, pain lanced through my abdomen, sharp and sudden, like being stabbed with a white-hot blade. I doubled over, gasping, and Darius caught me before I could fall. Ember? What's wrong? The pain pulsed again, and with it came a strange awareness, something moving inside me, something that definitely shouldn't be there. My hands flew to my stomach, and through our bond one felt Darius's shock as he sensed what I was feeling. That's impossible, he whispered. We just completed the bond. There hasn't been time. It's not yours. The knowledge came to me with horrible certainty. Whatever this is, it's not your child. His amber eyes went wide. Then what? Another wave of pain cut him off, and this time I felt something else, a presence awakening, stretching inside me like a cat rousing from sleep. Ancient. Hungry. Wrong. The suppression magic, I gasped as understanding crashed over me. When it broke, it didn't just release my power. It released something else. Something that's been sleeping in my bloodline. Darius's face went white. Shadow spawn. The word sent ice through my veins. I'd heard the stories, ancient tales of creatures that existed between worlds, beings of pure darkness that could possess and corrupt anything they touched. But those were just stories. Weren't they? How? I managed to ask through gritted teeth. Morgana. His voice was deadly quiet. She's been planning this for decades. The soul-splitting, positioning Luna as my perfect mate, suppressing your power while nurturing something else in its place, it's all been leading to this moment. Through the window, the moon was rising, and its light was wrong, tinted red as fresh blood. The blood moon. I could feel its pull like a physical weight, calling to whatever was growing inside me. The ritual, I breathed. She needs this thing, doesn't she? Whatever's inside me. A shadow spawn born under the blood moon, sired by ancient darkness and carried by one half of a sundered soul. Darius's jaw was tight with fury. It would be the perfect key to tear open the barriers between worlds. The pain was getting worse, coming in waves now like labor contractions. But this wasn't natural birth, This was something fighting to claw its way out of me before its time. We have to stop her, I said, forcing myself to stand straight despite the agony. We have to get you away from the Blood Moon's influence, Darius countered. If that thing is born tonight, then everyone dies anyway. I met his eyes, drawing strength from our bond. At least this way, we have a chance to fight. He stared at me for a long moment, and I felt his internal war through our connection, his desperate need to protect me warring with his knowledge that I was right. Finally, he nodded. Together, he said simply. Together. We made it as far as the corridor before the next wave of pain brought me to my knees. This time, though, it was accompanied by something else, Luna's voice in my head, clear as if she were standing beside me. Sister, you have to fight it. Don't let her use you. I looked up at Darius, who was supporting me with strong hands. Did you hear that? Hear what? Luna's voice came again, desperate now. The bonds she put on me are breaking. I can feel what she's doing to you, and it's wrong. Everything she promised me was a lie. Luna, I whispered aloud. Where are you? Through our twin connection, apparently not severed by the revelations about soul splitting, I felt her location. She was in the courtyard directly below us, but something was different. The cold emptiness I'd sensed in her was fracturing, revealing glimpses of the sister I remembered. I can help you escape, she said. But you have to trust me. It could be a trap, Darius warned, though he'd only heard my half of the conversation. It's not, Luna's mental voice was fierce. I've seen what she really plans, Ember. She doesn't just want to merge the realms. She wants to consume them. Everything. Everyone. She's been using me just like she used him. I felt the truth of her words through our connection, along with something else, genuine fear and regret. She wants to help, I told Darius. The magical bonds controlling her are breaking. Or she wants us to think they are. Before I could respond, the castle shook as something massive struck the outer walls. Through the windows, I could see creatures pouring out of the shadows, things that had never been fully alive, given form by Morgana's dark magic. The Shadow Realm, Darius breathed. She's already started tearing holes in the barriers. Another wave of pain doubled me over, and this time I felt the thing inside me respond to the shadow creature's presence. It was feeding on their energy, growing stronger. We're out of time, I gasped. Luna's voice came again, urgent now. The West Tower. Meet me at the base of the West Tower. I can get you out, but we have to move now. She says the West Tower, I told Darius. He hesitated for exactly one heartbeat, then scooped me up in his arms. If this is a trap, then we spring it together. We ran through corridors filled with the sounds of battle. Morgana's creatures had breached the castle's defenses, and Darius's guards were fighting desperately to hold them back. But these weren't normal enemies. They moved like liquid shadow, reforming after each strike, growing stronger with each life they claimed. The West Tower was chaos. Guards fought desperately against creatures that seemed to multiply with each passing moment. But in the center of it all stood Luna, and for the first time in weeks, she looked like my sister again. Her golden hair whipped around her face as she fought, not alongside the rogues but against them. White light poured from her hands, not the corrupted magic she'd been using, but something clean and pure. Her own power, finally unleashed. Luna. I called out. She spun toward us, and I saw tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Ember. She showed me such beautiful lies, and I wanted to believe them so badly. We can discuss this later, Darius said grimly, setting me down but keeping a protective arm around my waist. Right now we need to. The world exploded into screaming darkness. Morgana materialized in the center of the courtyard like a nightmare given form. She was no longer bothering to maintain her beautiful facade, her true nature was on full display. Her skin was translucent, revealing the darkness flowing beneath like black blood. Her hair moved independently, reaching toward us with predatory intent. And her eyes were portals to somewhere no living thing should see. Darius, she purred, and her voice made the stones crack. Still trying to play hero, I see. And you've brought me exactly what I need. Her gaze fixed on me, on the thing growing inside me, and smiled with too many teeth. Did you really think your little mate bond would protect her? Morgana laughed, and shadow creatures poured from her mouth like smoke. The child she carries is mine, bred from darkness and nurtured by suppression magic. Soon it will be born, and with it, the new world I've been promised. I won't let you use her, Darius snarled, power radiating from him in waves. You won't have a choice. Morgana raised her hands, and the blood moon's light seemed to focus on her like a spotlight. The ritual has already begun. Above us, the moon pulsed like a beating heart, and reality began to fray at the edges. I could see through to somewhere else, a realm of perpetual twilight where things that had never been human hunted between twisted trees. The shadow realm. And the barrier between worlds was dissolving. Now would be good, I told Luna through gritted teeth as another contraction nearly brought me to my knees. She nodded, power building around her like a storm. Hold on to each other, she said. This is going to hurt. Light erupted from her hands, not the gentle glow from before, but a blazing torrent that made the blood moon look pale by comparison. The shadow creatures shrieked and dissolved, the partially materialized portal wavered, and for a moment I thought we might actually escape. Then Morgana's laughter rang out across the courtyard. Foolish child, she said, and suddenly Luna was on her knees, black veins spreading across her skin. Did you think I didn't plan for your inevitable betrayal? Luna. I tried to reach for her, but Darius held me back. The bonds may be breaking, Morgana continued, but they're not broken yet. You'll watch your sister birth the key to my new world, and then you'll watch that world consume everything you've ever loved. The moon pulsed again, brighter now, and the thing inside me responded with a surge of movement that made me scream. Through the dissolving barriers, I could see shapes moving in the shadow realm, thousands of them, waiting for their chance to pour into our world. Luna struggled to her feet, fighting against the corruption spreading through her veins. Ember, she gasped, you have to. Her words were cut off as shadow creatures began pouring through the weakened barriers, no longer just Morgana's conjured servants but real denizens of the dark realm. They spread across the castle grounds like a plague, and everywhere they touched, the world withered and died. The ritual had begun in earnest. And somewhere in the chaos, something inside me stirred and began its fight to be born. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The world was ending one shadow at a time. From my position in Darius's arms, I watched creatures of pure darkness pour through the tears in reality like water through a broken dam. They moved with terrifying purpose, spreading across the castle grounds and beyond, reaching toward Pact territories that had stood unconquered for centuries. The northern territories are under attack, came a breathless report from one of Darius's scouts who had shifted back to human form, blood streaming from deep gashes across his chest. The Silverstone Pack sent a desperate call for aid before their communications went dark. Darius's jaw tightened, and through our bond one felt his anguish, the weight of leadership demanding he be everywhere at once while his mate doubled over in agony beside him. What about the eastern borders? He asked, even as another wave of pain from the thing inside me made me grip his arm hard enough to leave marks. Overrun, the scout reported grimly. These creatures, they're not just killing, Your Majesty. They're corrupting everything they touch. Turning our own people into something else. Through the chaos, Luna struggled to her feet, black veins still spreading up her arms like poison. It's not just random destruction, she gasped. Morgana needs chaos, fear, despair, it feeds the ritual. The more terror these creatures spread, the faster she can tear down what's left of the barriers. Then we stop them, Darius said simply, but I could feel his uncertainty through our bond. How did you fight an enemy that multiplied with every victory? Darius. I caught his hand, forcing him to meet my eyes despite the pain racking my body. Something's wrong with what's inside me. Wrong how? The movement in my abdomen had changed, becoming less violent and more purposeful. Like whatever was growing there was no longer fighting to escape, but settling into place. Preparing. It stopped trying to claw its way out, I said. And I can feel awareness. Intelligence. Through our bond, Darius experienced what I was feeling, the strange sense of another presence sharing my body, ancient beyond measure but somehow benevolent. Nothing like the shadow spawn we'd feared. That's impossible, he breathed. Is it? Luna's voice was weak but determined. Think about it, sister. What if we got it wrong? What if Morgana didn't plant something dark inside you? What if she was trying to corrupt something that was already there? Before I could ask what she meant, the air around us shimmered, and a figure materialized that made every wolf present drop to their knees in instinctive submission. She was tall and ethereal, with silver hair that moved like liquid starlight and eyes that held the depth of eternity. Power radiated from her in waves that made the very air sing, and when she spoke, it was like hearing the voice of creation itself. My daughter, she said, and her gaze fixed on me with infinite tenderness. You carry the most precious gift. Moon Goddess, Darius whispered, still on his knees. Rise, Alpha King, she said gently. Though that title was never truly yours to claim, was it? The words hit like a physical blow. Through our bond, I felt Darius's shock and shame, along with memories he'd kept buried for decades, blood on his hands, the sound of his brother's dying breath, the weight of a crown he'd stolen to prevent a greater darkness. I did what had to be done, he said, his voice steady despite the emotions churning through our connection. You killed your own brother to prevent him from mating with Morgana, the Moon Goddess said, not in accusation but in simple acknowledgement. Kieran was weak, easily manipulated. He would have fulfilled the dark prophecy willingly, believing her lies about the glory they would find together. And instead I've brought about the same ending anyway, Darius said bitterly. Morgana has returned, the shadow realm is bleeding through, and the prophecy is not what you think it is. The Moon Goddess turned to Luna, whose form was flickering like a candle in the wind. The prophecy speaks of a sundered soul reuniting under the blood moon, but it never specified what kind of reunion. Luna looked up with eyes that were already beginning to dim. I'm dying, she said simply. The magical backlash from breaking Morgana's bonds. I can feel my soul beginning to separate from my body. Luna, no. I tried to reach for her, but another contraction stopped me cold. This time, though, it wasn't pain I felt, it was power. Pure, clean power flowing through me like liquid light. The child you carry, the Moon Goddess said gently, is my reincarnation. My essence, given form to enter the world anew in a time of greatest need. But shadow spawn was never what grew within you. The Moon Goddess smiled. Morgana has many powers, but creating life is not among them. She can only corrupt what already exists. I stared at her, my hand pressed to my abdomen where I could now feel something like a warm glow emanating from within. Then the suppression magic was meant to hide my essence from those who would use it for dark purposes, she confirmed. But such magic comes with a price. The child can only be born safely if the soul split is healed, if both halves of your essence survive to become whole again. Luna laughed weakly. But I'm not going to survive. I can feel it, the backlash is consuming me from the inside out. There is a way, the Moon Goddess said quietly. But it requires a sacrifice. Through the bond, I felt Darius's immediate understanding and his absolute rejection of what she was suggesting. No, he said firmly. I won't let you die for this. Let me? I would have laughed if another wave of power hadn't stolen my breath. Since when do you let me do anything? But even as I spoke, I could feel what the Moon Goddess was proposing through our connection. To save both the child and Luna, to heal the fractured soul and give birth to the reincarnated goddess, I would need power beyond anything I currently possessed. Alpha power. The mating bond transfers some of my strength to you, Darius said, understanding flooding through our connection. But it's not enough. To fully heal a soul split and birth a goddess, you'd need the complete power of an Alpha King. Which means breaking our bond, I finished quietly. The pain in his eyes was worse than anything the contractions had brought. Ember, I can't. You have to. Luna's voice was growing fainter, but her determination came through clearly. She's right. It's the only way. Around us, the battle raged on. Darius's forces fought valiantly, but for every shadow creature they destroyed, 3 more took its place. The tears in reality were spreading, and through them I could see vast armies of darkness preparing to pour into our world. There's something else you need to know, Luna said, her eyes fixed on mine. About why Morgana really created the soul split. Luna. She's our mother. The words fell into the chaos like stones into still water. Morgana is our mother, Ember. The soul split wasn't an experiment or a tool, it was the only way to keep us alive. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. That's impossible. Is it? Luna's smile was sad. Think about our childhood. No memories before age 5. No birth records in the pack archives. The way everyone always said we appeared one day, already grown children with no past. Through our bond, I felt Darius's shock and growing understanding. The curse, he breathed. The one she mentioned, it would have killed you at birth if you'd been born as one being. So she split us, Luna continued. Gave me the beauty and social graces needed to survive in pack society, while hiding your true power until you were strong enough to handle it. But then why? Because she changed. Luna's voice was barely a whisper now. The shadow realm corrupted her, made her forget that love was stronger than power. She started seeing us as tools instead of daughters. A fresh wave of shadow creatures crashed against the castle walls, and this time they didn't just breach the defenses, they shattered them entirely. Stone crumbled, metal twisted, and darkness poured through the gaps like a living thing. We're out of time, Darius said grimly. Around us, his remaining forces formed a desperate last circle, but even I could see it wouldn't hold for long. Through the chaos, Morgana's voice rang out, magically amplified to carry across the battlefield. Did you enjoy your little family reunion? She called mockingly. I do hope you're ready to say goodbye. She materialized in the center of the courtyard, and the shadow creatures parted before her like a dark sea. But something was different about her now. She looked more solid, more real, as if the ritual was not just opening portals but anchoring her more firmly to this realm. My daughters, she said, and her voice carried genuine affection that somehow made it worse. You've grown so powerful, so beautiful. I'm almost sorry I have to destroy you. Mother. The word tasted like ashes in my mouth. You remember. Morgana smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human. I wondered if you would. The memory spells were so carefully crafted. You split our soul to save us, I said. And now you want to use us to destroy everything? I want to reshape everything, she corrected. This world is flawed, broken, full of pain and inequality and endless suffering. The Shadow Realm offers something better, a place where power is the only truth that matters. A place where nothing can truly live, Luna countered, though her voice was growing weaker with each word. Life is overrated. Morgana's expression hardened. I offered you both a chance to rule beside me, to be goddesses in the new world. But you chose this. She gestured dismissively at the battle raging around us. We chose love, I said simply. Love. Morgana spat the word like a curse. Love is what made me weak enough to split my own children's souls. Love is what cost me my first mate and sent me into exile. Love is what will destroy you both before this night is over. She raised her hands, and the shadow creatures responded with renewed fury. They poured over Darius's remaining defenses like a tidal wave of darkness, and I knew we had perhaps minutes before they reached us. Now, Luna gasped. If you're going to do it, it has to be now. Through our bond, I felt Darius's agony at what we were asking of him. To break a mating bond deliberately was almost unheard of. It could kill both parties, or worse, drive them irreversibly insane. I won't lose you, he said fiercely. You'll lose everything if you don't, I replied, though my heart was breaking. Including me. The moon goddess, who had been silent during our exchange, stepped forward. There is a way to break the bond without destroying you both, she said gently. But it requires absolute trust. Tell me, Darius said immediately. Instead of severing the connection, you transfer it. Give your alpha power to Ember, but redirect the bond itself to the child she carries, to my reincarnation. That would make the baby the new Alpha King. Or Queen, as the case may be. The moon goddess's smile was soft. A goddess born with the full power of an alpha, carrying within her all the strength needed to seal the shadow realm forever. Around us, the shadow creatures were only yards away now, their inhuman shrieks drowning out the sounds of battle. Luna's form was beginning to fade, becoming translucent around the edges. I accept, I said quickly, before I could lose my nerve. Whatever it takes. And I accept, Luna said, her voice barely audible. Take what's yours, sister. Take all of it. Darius looked at me for one long moment, his amber eyes burning with love and loss and absolute determination. I accept, he said simply. For you. For all of us. The world exploded into light. Power poured into me from 3 sources at once, Darius's alpha strength burning through our severed bond, Luna's soul half merging with mine in a rush of completion that nearly stopped my heart, and from within, the growing presence of the moon goddess's reincarnation pulsing with divine energy. I screamed as my body tried to contain forces no mortal was meant to hold, but somehow I didn't shatter. Instead, I felt myself transforming, becoming something greater than I'd ever dreamed possible. Through the chaos of transformation, I was dimly aware of Darius collapsing, the loss of his alpha power leaving him as drained as if someone had drained all the blood from his veins. But he was alive, I could feel him through the new connection forming with the child, weaker but unbroken. Luna's physical form dissolved into particles of light that swirled around me before sinking into my skin, and with them came all her memories, all her experiences, all the parts of myself I'd never known were missing. For the first time in my life, I was whole. Impossible, Morgana breathed, and I opened my eyes to see her staring at me with something approaching fear. I looked down at my hands and saw them glowing with silver light. The child within me pulsed with power that made the blood moon look dim by comparison. And when I spoke, my voice carried the authority of divinity itself. Hello, Mother, I said. I think it's time we talked. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The silver light pouring from my transformed body pushed back the shadow creatures like dawn breaking over a nightmare. For the first time since the ritual began, they hesitated, their red eyes reflecting something that might have been fear. But my triumph lasted only seconds before I felt it, Darius collapsing behind me, his life force ebbing away like water through broken fingers. No, I breathed, spinning toward him. He lay crumpled on the blood-soaked stones, his face gray as ash, his breathing so shallow I could barely see his chest rise and fall. The severed mate bond had left a wound in both our souls, but while I'd been filled with divine power to heal it, he had nothing left to sustain him. Darius. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands hovering over his still form. The light within me pulsed, trying to reach him, but the broken bond was like a wall between us. Touching, Morgana said, her voice cutting through my despair like a blade. But you can't save them all, daughter. That's what makes love so beautifully tragic, it always demands impossible choices. I looked up to find her watching us with eyes that held genuine sorrow beneath their darkness. You could heal him, she continued, gesturing at Darius. Pour your divine power into his dying body, restore what was taken. But while you're playing healer, the shadow realm continues to bleed through, and soon there won't be a world left to save him in. As if to emphasize her point, more tears opened in the fabric of reality. Through them, I could see the shadow realm in all its terrible glory, a place where twisted trees reached toward a starless sky, where creatures that had never known light hunted between landscapes of bone and ash. Or, Morgana continued, you could focus on sealing those rifts, become the bridge between worlds your power demands. Save everyone, except the man you claim to love. There has to be another way, I said desperately. Does there? She tilted her head, studying me with something that might have been pity. What would you choose, Ember? Your mate, your world, or the child carrying the moon goddess's essence? Because I promise you, you can't have them all. The weight of the choice pressed down on me like a physical thing. Through the new connection with my unborn daughter, I could feel the moon goddess's power stirring, ready to pour through me to seal the shadow realm forever. But using that power as a bridge between worlds would consume my physical form, leaving nothing behind but light and memory. I could save everyone except myself. Choose quickly, Morgana urged as more shadow creatures poured through the expanding rifts. Every second you hesitate, more of both worlds are lost. I closed my eyes, feeling the pull of 3 impossible paths. Save Darius and watch the world burn. Save the world and let him die. Or sacrifice everything I was to become something greater, losing my chance at the love I'd finally found. That's when I heard it, a voice within me that was both my own and infinitely older. Mother, it said, and I realized my unborn daughter was speaking to me through our connection. The choice is an illusion. What do you mean? The prophecy was never about sacrifice. It was about understanding. The moon goddess's voice came through our bond, gentle but implacable. Every version of this story that has played out across countless worlds has ended the same way, with someone choosing death to save the rest. But that was never the test. Then what? Love that demands sacrifice is not love at all. It's merely another form of transaction. Through our connection, I felt her divine wisdom flowing into me. True love, the kind that can heal fractured souls and mend broken worlds, asks for something much harder. Which is to refuse the choice entirely. To find a fourth path. I opened my eyes, looking from Darius's dying form to the chaos erupting around us, to Morgana watching with that mixture of sorrow and anticipation. You're wrong, I said, getting to my feet. Morgana's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? About love demanding impossible choices. The power within me pulsed, but instead of reaching for the rifts or pouring into Darius, it simply waited. Real love doesn't demand anything. It gives everything freely, without condition or limitation. Pretty words, Morgana said dismissively. But words won't close the shadow realm. Won't they? I smiled, feeling something shift in the very fabric of reality around us. You created the soul split to save us, Mother. Not because prophecy demanded it, not because magic required it, but because you loved us enough to tear yourself apart to keep us alive. Something flickered in her black eyes, surprise, perhaps, or recognition. That love is still there, I continued, stepping toward her. Buried under centuries of Shadow Realm corruption, but it's there. I can feel it. You're delusional, she said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Am I? I gestured toward Darius, toward the chaos around us. Look at what we're all doing. You're trying to remake the world because you can't bear to see us suffer in this one. Darius gave up his alpha power because he couldn't bear to lose me. I was ready to sacrifice my physical form because I couldn't bear to choose between the people I love. Every single one of us is making decisions based on love, not logic. Love is weakness, Morgana said automatically, but the words sounded hollow now. Love is the only strength that matters. I reached out to her, my hand glowing with silver light. The prophecy was never about a sundered soul reuniting, Mother. It was about broken hearts learning to heal together. For a moment, I thought she might take my hand. I saw the war playing out behind her eyes, the mother who had split her own children's souls warring with the creature who had been corrupted by decades of Shadow Realm influence. Then she pulled back, shaking her head. It's too late for that. The ritual is already. She stopped mid-sentence, staring past me with an expression of absolute shock. I turned to see Luna standing behind us, not the fading, translucent form from before, but solid and real and glowing with her own inner light. Hello, mother, she said quietly. Sister. But you're inside me, I breathed. I felt your soul merge with mine. Luna smiled, and it was radiant. You gave me something I never knew I wanted, the choice to be separate. For my entire life, I was half a person, always incomplete, always defined by what I lacked compared to you. But when our souls touched during the merger, I finally understood. Understood what? That I didn't want to be whole the way everyone expected. I wanted to be whole as myself, Luna, not half of Ember. She looked at her hands, flexing her fingers as if marveling at their solidity. The moon goddess offered me a gift, my own complete soul, separate from yours but equal to it. Through our connection, the moon goddess's voice confirmed it. Two souls, born from one but choosing to remain distinct. It has never happened before, but love makes all things possible. That's not how soul splits work, Morgana protested, though she sounded more confused than angry now. It's not how they've worked before, Luna agreed. But then, we've never tried healing them with love instead of power. Behind us, Darius drew a shuddering breath, and I spun to see color returning to his face. The broken mate bond was, not restored, exactly, but transformed into something new. Instead of the mystical compulsion that had driven us together, I felt a clean, freely chosen connection based on mutual love and respect. How? I whispered. Because you chose to trust love over fear, came the moon goddess's voice. The bond broke because it was built on destiny and prophecy. But this new connection, this is built on choice. It cannot be broken by magic because it was never created by magic. Around us, the shadow creatures were beginning to retreat, not from my power but from something else, the growing light that poured from Luna, from me, from Darius as he struggled to sit up. Even from Morgana herself, though she seemed unaware of it. The rifts, I said, staring at the tears in reality. They're shrinking. Love is healing them, Luna said wonderingly. Not power, not sacrifice, just love freely given. Morgana looked around at the transforming battlefield, at her shadow creatures dissolving into harmless mist, at the rifts between worlds sealing themselves with threads of silver light. I don't understand, she said, and for the first time she sounded lost rather than menacing. You created us out of love, I said gently. Split your own soul to keep us alive, then spent decades trying to build a world worthy of us. But mother, we were never broken things that needed fixing. We just needed to be allowed to choose our own path. I wanted to protect you, she whispered. I know. I stepped closer, and this time she didn't pull away when I took her hands. And you did. You saved us. But now it's time to save yourself. How? By making your own choice. Luna joined us, taking Morgana's other hand. Not what the Shadow Realm demands, not what prophecy requires, what you want. Through our touch, I felt the moment Morgana truly saw what she had become. The corruption that had twisted her love into possessiveness, her protectiveness into control, her desire to shield us from pain into a need to remake the world itself. I'm a monster, she breathed. You're a mother who lost her way, Luna said firmly. But it's not too late to find it again. The last of the rifts was sealing itself, the Shadow Realm's influence finally retreating. But I could see in Morgana's eyes that she understood what we all did. Someone needed to ensure the barriers remained strong, to guard against future incursions. I have to go back, she said quietly. To the Shadow Realm. It's the only way to seal it properly from the other side. Mother, no, I protested. Not as a prisoner, she said, squeezing our hands. As a guardian. Someone who understands both love and darkness, who can make sure the two realms never bleed together again. You'll be alone, Luna said, her voice breaking. No. Morgana smiled, and for a moment I saw the woman she must have been before corruption claimed her. I'll carry both of you with me. Your love, your forgiveness, that's stronger than any darkness. She kissed our foreheads in turn, and I felt something pass between us, not power, but understanding. Acceptance. Peace. Take care of each other, she whispered. And remember, you were never broken. You were always exactly who you were meant to be. The Shadow Realm's final rift closed around her like a doorway, and she was gone. But instead of the terrifying tear in reality it had been before, this looked almost welcoming. A passage between worlds guarded by love instead of sealed by fear. She chose well, the moon goddess said through our connection. And so did you, my daughter. We all did, I said, looking around at the transformed battlefield. Darius was on his feet now, no longer an alpha king but simply a man who had chosen love over power. Luna glowed with her own inner light, finally free to be herself rather than half of someone else. And within me, I felt my daughter stirring, not a burden of divine responsibility, but a gift freely given and freely received. What happens now? Luna asked. I looked up at the blood moon, which was already beginning to fade back to its normal silver. Now we write our own story. 3 months later. The birth was nothing like the violent emergence we'd all feared. When my daughter finally decided to make her appearance, it was with the quiet dignity of dawn breaking over still water. No supernatural fireworks, no divine proclamations. Just the ancient miracle of new life entering the world. She's beautiful, Darius whispered, cradling our daughter with the careful reverence of a man who had never expected to hold his own child. She was beautiful, tiny and perfect, with silver eyes that held wisdom beyond her minutes of life but also the innocent wonder of any newborn. Hello, little one, I said through our fading connection as her divine essence settled into purely mortal form. Hello, Mama, came the reply, though I knew it would be the last time we spoke this way. She had chosen humanity over divinity, mortality over immortal power. Chosen to be our daughter instead of the world's goddess. No regrets? I asked aloud. She yawned, a perfectly normal baby yawn, and I felt her contentment through the last whispers of our connection. She had made her choice the same way all of us had, with love instead of obligation. What will you call her? Luna asked from her chair beside the bed. She had found her own mate among the former rogues, a gentleman named Marcus who looked at her like she hung the moon, not because prophecy demanded it but because he genuinely couldn't imagine a world without her smile. Aurora, I said, the name coming to me with perfect certainty. For new beginnings. Darius leaned down to kiss my forehead, and I marveled again at the strength of our freely chosen bond. No mystical compulsion drove us together now, just the simple, revolutionary decision to build a life based on mutual respect and genuine affection. The council is asking about succession, he said quietly. They want to know who will rule now that the old prophecies are fulfilled. I smiled, shifting Aurora in my arms. Tell them we all will. No more Alpha Kings or Luna Queens chosen by destiny. From now on, leadership is earned through service, not bloodline. The werewolf world will never be the same, Luna observed. Good, I said firmly. It's time our people learned what we did, that love chosen freely is infinitely stronger than love imposed by fate. Outside our window, the full moon shone down on a world forever changed. Pack territories that had been at war for centuries were learning to cooperate. Rogues were finding their way back to family and community. And somewhere between worlds, a mother stood guard to ensure her daughter's children would never know the darkness she had once embraced. As Aurora settled into sleep, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I thought about all the impossible choices that had led us here. The prophecies that had tried to define us, the bonds that had tried to constrain us, the fear that had nearly consumed us all. But in the end, the most powerful magic hadn't been divine intervention or alpha strength or even the reunion of sundered souls. It had been the simple, radical act of choosing love over fear. I pressed a soft kiss to Aurora's forehead and whispered the words that would become her lullaby, her truth, her inheritance. Some stories are written in the stars, little one, but the best ones are written by the heart. And in the silver light of the moon that no longer ruled our destinies but simply watched over our dreams, we began to write our own. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.